This is the car that gives Kia full market coverage. Essentially, that means they now have the EV3, the EV6, the EV9, the PV5, and the EV4. In some ways, it's like an EV6, except the power goes to the front of the car and it's not as expensive or as powerful. But is it good? We're going to find out here on Nobby on Cars. Dimension-wise, especially on the inside, they claim it's more roomy in the back than the Tesla Model 3. It's also 1.86 meters wide, and you're getting what's now a signature from Kia, these vertical daytime running lights that go over the front of the car. Drag coefficient giving a decent result with this somewhat slopey bonnet, although I do wonder, is an EV6 slightly more efficient and slightly slopier? You can also get it in a fastback version that has a slightly bigger boot. That car will be made in Korea. This is the first electric Kia that will be made in Europe, for Europe. It's only going to be a European car, while the fastback version will be on sale globally. Two battery sizes in the car, 58.3 and 81.4 kilowatt hour. The larger battery is the longest range EV that the company has built to date. It's true. In fact, the fastback version will go slightly further. You should be able to get well over 600 kilometers in ideal conditions. But later on when we're driving, I'll tell you what sort of fuel efficiency I've managed to achieve. If you go for the GT line version, and we will be getting some Earth versions. So essentially what happened in Ireland in the EV3, where we have a couple of more affordable versions, and then the top spec GT line, which Kia Ireland tell me was their best selling version of the EV3. In fact, if they could have got their hands on more, they would have sold more of them. Anyway, you'll get the GT line, one size wheel on this car. All the efficiency tests have been on 17s, but these are 19s. They're specifically for this vehicle. Also, the tyres specifically for this vehicle. They're made by Michelin exclusively for this car. 2820 millimeters between the front wheel and the rear wheel. And that's where they're firing shots at Tesla to say our rear interior for our legroom has more room than your car. Now, we'll delve into this a little bit later on, but if you're comparing this to the EV3, I can tell you for a fact this has more space. More on that later on. Now, if I look at the back of this car in beautiful Marbella, you'll notice some familiar styling cues, like a straight down boot, a Kia rear spoiler, a sloping roof. The wiper is up there, so don't start leaving me comments saying, how come we haven't got a wiper? They do. It's up there, hidden behind this massive brake light. There's lots of black gloss. Again, you complain in the comments that the GT line doesn't like car washes. Why would you spend all this money on a lovely new car and wash it in a brush wash? Answer me that question. Wash it yourself. And then these, again, vertical lights with the very distinctive LED beams, indicators, the whole lot. Kind of flares out nicely here at the back. Be honest with you, I prefer the hatch. I think the fastback version, the proportions just look a little bit weird. You ever see those huge big whales that just tail off at the end? It's not for me, but for others maybe you will need the extra boot space because it is significantly bigger in the fastback. By significantly bigger, I mean 435 in this car or 490 in the fastback. So it is quite a difference. Now, look, you can drop this thing down a bit, but you're going to have to take all of this stuff out. There is a frunk, we'll cover that in just a minute. It doesn't look like the deepest boot. If you have anything bulky, this is going to have to come out. The size of it, you're going to have to leave it at home in the hallway or somewhere where someone's going to trip over it or your missus will give out to you. To be honest, we've all been there. The max load on this is 60 kilograms, by the way. And further below, well, yeah, you won't get in there because you can't. There's some basic things like shopping hook holders. There's a little bit of a light, and the seat is a 30-70 split, but you're going to have to do that from in the middle of the car because there's no levers back here. On the positive side, there is a load lip, but yeah, essentially if you do need the bigger boot, you're going to have to forgo the slightly better looking version of the car, I think, and get the fastback. And we are getting all the versions in Ireland. If you do want to drop the seats, as I mentioned, it's 70-30 and they go pretty flat. And there's no big gap here to let things fall down or when you're pushing long, heavy objects through. this little slope will, yeah, it's still a slope, but there's no gap essentially, so that should make things a little bit easier. Like a lot of Kias, you can't adjust the angle of these seats, but there's obviously eyes are fixed on both, and if you need an armrest, there's one there. Slightly questionable angle, but it's all right. These seats are very, very low on the ground. You can raise them a little bit, but I can still manage to squeeze my questionable runners underneath here. So it's a little bit tight, but yeah, if you can get the person in the front to raise, you'll be all right. I've seen this in quite a few Kias and their cousins Hyundai. You get the charging port in the seat, which actually gives you a little bit more, if your cable's not that long, to reach back here with your device rather than having to do it down there. So I like that. Couple of air vents in the back, no climate control. But again, this is a car that's going to start from mid-30s in Ireland. So you've got to be slightly managing your expectations. Now, this design of car can typically eat into the headspace. I'm okay. I'm not 6 foot. If you were, you might be touching cloth, so to speak. Down here is all right. Materials used are good. There's a lot of recycled things. Paint, fishnets, other weird stuff. Plastic bottles all go into this car, and Kia do a lot of stuff actually with oceans and seas in their local markets and help to clean plastic waste from beaches, so they kind of put their money where the mouth is there. No exposed metal apart from the very edge of the door frame, so all the B pillar kind of feels like a more premium car because it's just nicely snapped together. Charging port is on the front of the car. That can be helpful for getting into awkward charging spots, and when people decide to charge their plug-in hybrid 2 space over and drag their cable, you might get in and out quicker. There's a whole 2 minutes in the difference. 29 minutes, 10 to 80% on the smaller battery, or 31, 10 to 80% on the larger battery, the 81 kilowatt hour. Thermal management, preconditioning, Kia are just good at this stuff. You can rock up to an Ionity charger, plug the car in, and it starts charging straight away. Obviously, you can charge it at home overnight. That's going to be the most affordable way to do that. I do that with a Nobby charger, 14 solar panels and a 10 kilowatt hour battery, and I can charge in a 2-hour window for 10 cents per kilowatt hour. There are also cheaper tariffs on the market. The car is also enabled for vehicle to load and vehicle to grid, so whenever someone gets the finger out in Ireland, you'll essentially be able to sell all your energy back in this car down to a 20% state of charge and get money for that, even if you don't have solar panels. It's really clever. It's a great way of sharing energy, helping you kind of cover the cost of your car actually. But yeah, we're still waiting in Ireland. Parts of Germany, parts of the Netherlands all have this in operation for the last few years. Come on, Ireland, get your finger out. I was just thinking for paying attention earlier on when I mentioned the frunk, because there isn't one. So all you do in this thing is top up your washer fluid and leave everything else alone. Although my EV in my house just costs €280 to be serviced. Now, I don't know what Kia's prices are, but everyone who tells you that EVs are cheaper to service, I'm not sure if that is strictly true. So no, there's no frunk. Even if that cover wasn't there, an aftermarket thing wouldn't have worked anyway. Would you expect in this segment of car? Possibly not, but there are things like the Puma Gen E that does have one of those, except it's not an EV4 and it costs nearly the same as the entry price in Ireland. So do you know what? I'd forgo a frunk, get a little bit acquainted with your cables in the boot, and move on with your life. All right then, so in the front passenger seat, there is no eyes fix, there's just 2 in the car. If that is important, just to bear that in mind. This doesn't move, unlike the EV3. Now, I was tempted to ask the people at Kia, but they're nice. I didn't really want to upset them. Is there a reason why the movable laptop shelf from the EV3 hasn't made it into this car? And I do wonder, do people use it? So let me know if you have an EV3 and you're just interested in what else is coming from the brand. You might necessarily be buying a car yet. Do you use that laptop thing? There's hill descent control in this car. Might be handy if you live in a very hilly area, although there's lots of regen available through the paddles as well. 2 steering wheels. This is the GT line version, so there's the 2 spoke, which again will be very similar to the EV3 if you haven't seen that. It's a 12-inch 0.3, it's a 12-inch 0.3 and a 5 here. So yes, the climate control is behind the screen, but it never leaves this area. Again, we've seen all this stuff. You can set up the car, you've got all these swipey things, you can watch YouTube when you're charging, there's games, and there's also theatre mode and rest mode. Theatre mode will darken the car, give a nice ambient lighting, recline your seat and let you watch film while you charge, but you've got to pay for that. The same with rest mode, so that's in a subscription service basically at the moment. I don't know, will Kia forever charge for that? Are they testing the market to see how many people are interested in having subscriptions in their car, essentially? But that's the story with that. The GT will get you heated seats and air-cooled seats and a heated steering wheel. I know in Ireland it's not 29 degrees in September, but very welcome, very welcome today. These seats, there's no tight extender on the back of them, but they are comfortable. They hug you into place. They feel decent quality. Everything's vegan these days, whether you like it or not. So still comfort there. One or two buttons here. The shortcut stuff brings you to home and your media and your setup. It's nice to use when you are driving, you're trying to pay attention, and you just have to get something here, and you don't want to fully take your eye off the road. There is a head-up display in this car as well. No roof in this car, the sunroof, but there is an optional sunroof. Interestingly, one of the facts I saw today, the EV4 can take 5 times its weight on the roof in terms of a crash safety point of view. Hopefully you never need that, but I just thought was very interesting. I'll explain a bit more about it on the drive. The lane assist features, you can use the indicator, it'll change lane for you on the motorway. You've got the camera thing underneath the driver instrument so you can see your blind spot. Again, this is very big use of space just for one wireless charger plate. I think is maybe a bit mad. 2 cup holders down here and lots of storage space either here and under the armrest. So there's lots of cubby holes. A nice low sitting position. This is a really important C-segment car for them. They've essentially said this is nothing to do with an SUV. We've tried to make this car drive like a hatchback. Why you drive a hatchback is to have better driving dynamics, and they say they have captured that in this car. So let's go for a drive and find out. I'll start with the science bit then. I don't really understand it either, but the selective frequency damping essentially means the car has a bit of a split personality when it comes to the damping setup. When you're doing dynamic driving, it can be firm and knows what you're doing, and then when you're just doing more normal, relaxed driving, it's a nice, soft setup, but not overly soft. They're at pains to say that the car has been designed in Europe, tested in Europe, built for Europe. In fact, the car is only for Europe in the hatchback state. And I suppose essentially what that means is it should be more suited to the roads that we're used to driving in Ireland, UK and mainland Europe. So just over 200 brake horsepower, put the nose down, not a huge amount of pitch. It's very flat under acceleration, braking and in corners. They say, you know, your typical hatchback driver is driving a hatchback because they prefer the driving dynamics. They've tried to capture the essence of a hatchback, but this is a hatchback, but the essence of how those cars handle. You've got multi-link on the rear, McPherson strut on the front. So even last minute changes, you don't have that body roll. You don't feel that weight that is so often pronounced in heavy electric cars. It's just missing from this vehicle. They've done a really good job at just making it feel like a driver's car. The steering is good. You can obviously have lane keep assist if you like, and that will make it heavier and a bit more like it's helpful in motorway driving. It takes some of the hard work out of constantly steering, but you can turn all of these things off and just sort of have a bit of fun. And 200 brake horsepower, it's all right. There is an all-wheel drive GT version coming, which will have more power, obviously, but to me, this one is just fine. There's also the full iPedal experience. The level 3 of it, iPedal comes on, and it pretty much brings the car to a halt. So if you were going to use this as a public service vehicle, might make life a bit easier for you. This is the longest range electric car Kia have ever made. So this long range version with just over 80 kilowatt hour battery is officially good for that sort of range. They did test that in 17-inch tyres, and don't forget that WLTP is a lot of a reduced speed compared to what you might expect it to be. It's certainly not constant motorway driving. On that note, I have seen about 18 to 20 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. I would have expected it to be better, if I'm honest with you. And you know, we're in favorable temperatures here. It's 29 degrees today in España. So yeah, I'm a bit surprised by that, to be honest with you. I just would have expected it to be a little bit better. Now, look, if I got more time in the car, could I get that down? Probably could. It's obviously also based on a mix of many different people testing the cars on this press trip as well. It makes quick progress, it steers very well, and the weight of the car is quite well disguised. It's almost like you're driving an EV6, except the power's going to the front wheels rather than the back. And in the past, things like the old model e-Niro and things, it was hard to get that power down, particularly on a wet Irish road, a cold winter's morning, whatever the case may be. It's just not there here. Now that kind of, they've managed the torque from the foot pedal to your hand feeling. There's a slight bit of hesitancy when you accelerate hard, but it does mean that the car is getting a chance, the tyres are getting a chance to actually grip and go the direction you want to go, rather than just straight away this kind of wheel skidding that's happening. I've had that this week in the BYD Dolphin Surf. It's very pronounced. It's time for one of my nerdy tests now. Let's just check the decibel levels. I'm going to stop talking for a second. So motorway speed about 63 decibels. 4 decibels-ish louder than the Volvo EX90. Wind noise across the windscreen, not very obvious at motorway speeds. The front row is also double glazed. Screw the people in the back, they don't care about that, but up front it's quiet, very, very quiet. And if the people that used to be in your family are too big to sit in the back or don't want to go on journeys with you anymore, and essentially they're borrowing your car, your digital key can be shared with up to 15 people. I know, that's a lot of people. Maybe if it's a fleet car or something like that, it means you don't have to give them the physical key. You can just add them on your mobile, kick them off when they're annoying you. Also, speaking of grip, the Michelin tyre that's on this car is developed especially for the EV4. Now, does that mean if you get a puncture, you're waiting days to get a tyre because it's not in stock? That's one of the first things I thought of. You know, it sounds all well and good. Oh, we've worked with Michelin. They made us a tyre, right? But, you know, has Fast Fit in Dublin got loads of them? I still firmly believe the Koreans are 10 years ahead of the rest of us when it comes to EV technology. They're on their 4th generation EVs here, and they're just learning so much all the time. And with this car, it's not a special model, it's not a sporty edition, it's just a normal family hatch. To my mind, Kia have designed a car here that's just a cracking car, regardless of fuel type. They've also, in my opinion, not only surpassed what we're doing in Europe, but they just make better driving cars than the Chinese. For the most part, the Chinese stuff just doesn't drive as well as the Koreans. I do wish the fuel efficiency was a little bit better. Can't quite get my head around that. It's not like it has ridiculous levels of power, and it's not like it's cold. It's doing a lot of motorway driving, I will say that, and the worst I'm seeing here is 18, 19 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers on a motorway at 120. So in some sense that isn't bad, but maybe I did expect to see it behaving just a little bit better when it comes to fuel efficiency. They've managed to capture the essence of all that's good about a petrol hatchback and put it into this vehicle. It doesn't have body roll, it has great steering feel. You feel like you're somewhat involved in driving the car. It's just a great little package. What are you getting then for your money? And remember, up to sort of mid-40s for the GT line version of this car, which is now more expensive than things like ID3 GTXs. Do need to bear that in mind. Kia's 7-year warranty, 128 kilowatt DC charging, towing capacity of 1,000, which is all right. You're not going to be much of a caravan in this car, but you probably would want a bigger car to be doing that. But maybe one of the smaller things, you know, maybe you like to bring a sauna to the beach in the mornings. I don't know. The main thing for me is it's got decent interior space. The boot is definitely on the smaller size, I feel, for this size of car. But again, if that is important, at least they've got the option of the fastback. For me, it's about the driving. I've really enjoyed driving it. They went on and on about how they made this, you know, a nice hatchback feeling car to drive. I think by and large they've captured that. It's still a heavy car compared to an internal combustion engine sitting under there, don't get me wrong, but handling, grip, how it gets the power down, driving dynamics, all really enjoyable. And if you're someone who does like that, I mean, it doesn't have the rear wheel drive bias obviously as the EV6, but there is a GT all-wheel drive version of this coming, and that could be very, very interesting depending on how much power they put into it. As I've said in the video, I think the Koreans are just a good few years ahead of Europe in terms of EVs, where they are. Look at prices on EV6s in the market. It's a car that a year later again I'm filming with Kia on an international trip, and the EV6 is still a relevant car. It's phenomenal. It's out touching on 5-6 years now, And that's the DNA that sort of has trickled down to this car. They know what they're doing when it comes to EVs. The question for you is, would you prefer this design or the fastback? And do you think it's worth it over an EV3? Because they say they now have the full market lineup. You might think, yeah, you've just got too many cars, lads. Let me know what you think. Thank you for coming this far in the video. Maybe you've even watched the ads. It all helps support this fully independent YouTube channel. And look, I know it looks like a tough life. Spain, I mean, God, 29 degrees in the middle of September. Trust me, it's not as glamorous as it looks on Instagram. See you next time. Thanks for watching.